Yes, well, we've been telling you about this story about from Melbourne on Christmas Day. Hey, freshwater croc roaming the streets of the suburbs of Melbourne. And the man called out to get it is Mark Snake Hunter Pelley joins me now. Good afternoon, Mark.
Good afternoon to you. How are you?
I'm very good indeed, mate. Now, you do this for a living. How often in Melbourne do you get called out for a crocodile?
First time ever on Christmas Day.
It's just I can't understand. You know, how many people own crocodiles as pets in Melbourne, in the city?
There's not too many. You need an advanced wildlife license to get a pet crocodile, and not too many people are capable or even have them. So there's a few handful of people who own crocodiles, and it's not a common pet for people to have.
Now, you get called out for all sorts of beasts. You caught this one, but apparently you've had many people ringing you up and saying that they've owned it. There's sort of a dispute about ownership.
Correct. So after I caught it on Christmas Day, the next day it was on the radio here in Australia. And then soon after the radio appearance, people were calling me up saying, look, mate, don't worry about getting the authorities involved. It's my crocodile. Just hand it over and I'll take it off your hands.
What do you think that they wanted to do with the croc? Did they think it was just a free exotic pet, or do you think they were going to turn it into a pair of shoes or eat it, or...?
Either or, because crocodiles can be eaten in this country. Sometimes some restaurants serve them. But or that people make shoes or handbags out of them. But no, people like to have an exotic pet, unfortunately. And unfortunately, that may be what happened to this little guy. He started out very small, and they only just get bigger and bigger. And unfortunately, maybe he got too big for the original owner.
Right. Now your snakes are your speciality. How often do you get called out to hunt for snakes, and what sort of snakes roam around Melbourne?
So in Melbourne, all the snakes are venomous, and this includes the 5th most venomous snake in the world, which is the eastern tiger snake. That's the most common snake I catch in people's houses. I also get eastern brown snakes, which is the 2nd most venomous snake in the world. I too find them in people's houses, cars, backyards, garages. I found one in a hospital once, aged care facility, child care facilities. You name the place that you could possibly think about, and I found a venomous snake there.
What got you involved in being a snake catcher? It doesn't seem something that when you're doing a careers day at school that someone would suggest to you to do. How did you get it? How did you get involved in it?
Growing up in my small suburb of Diamond Creek in the northeast part of Melbourne, I grew up around a lot of snakes. And before the housing development occurred, I used to walk around as a child in the bush looking for animals and picking up snakes or picking up lizards. And one day when I grew up, I decided, do you know what? I'm going to make my passion my profession. That was about 6 years ago now, and I've been catching venomous snakes ever since for my local community.
Did you have to have a lot of training in terms of how to handle snakes and how to be able to capture them safely?
The training is more around what are the laws that you need to abide by to catch snakes and having an understanding of what the snakes are. In terms of catching them, you basically bring your experience with you. So there's no formal training to teach you how to actually catch a snake in difficult situations. And this is quite understandable because catching a snake that's on the open field is very different to, say, trying to pick up a brown snake that's hiding underneath someone's fridge or behind their dishwasher. You have to be quite creative in different times to figure out how am I going to get this snake out of this difficult situation and keep myself safe at the same time.
Do you carry anti-venom with you when you go hunting?
Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to by law. Only doctors can carry it with them. So I take the chance every time. And, you get up in the morning, you go catch a few snakes a day, and then you come home and you think, thank God I'm safe. But unfortunately, sometimes it's not always the case. We had a fellow snake catcher in the western suburbs of Melbourne bitten last week. Someone in Australia was killed about a week ago, and somebody else another month ago, another snake catcher in Queensland, he was bitten by a snake and he sustained long-term injuries. So it's something that is a significant risk with the job.
So roughly how many snakes a month would you be asked to go out and catch?
On daily in summer, it's between 2 to 6 a day, and you work that out on a monthly basis. It can vary depending upon the weather. So if we have a cold streak for about a week, I might only catch up to 5 snakes in that week. If we've got a hot streak and there's lots and lots of snakes around, I can catch 6 a day, thereabouts.
And is it everywhere around Victoria, or are there certain areas that are relatively snake-free?
No areas are snake-free, but the places where you most commonly find snakes is not where people think. People think snakes are found in the long grass or out in the bush. I actually find a lot of snakes in Melbourne suburbia. We're building our houses out and we're spreading where the snake's territory used to be. And so now the snakes have to find a way to coexist with humans with all these houses and fences around. And they're doing so quite well. They're actually thriving in this environment.
So, I mean, out the corner of my eye here, I'm keeping an eye on the Ashes cricket, which is on at the MCG now. Is there any danger of a snakes, other than the couple of Australian bowlers that are on the pitch that are quite snaky? Are there any danger of them sort of, you look under your seat and you'll see one of those southern eastern brownie snaky things?
Not likely. Snakes are, even though Melbourne or Australia has the most venomous snakes in the world, they're actually very shy creatures. So if they see you, they'll always try to find a place to hide. And that's how they're often caught, is because the place they chose to hide wasn't a very good one. So the MCG, with so many people around, maybe 80,000 people or thereabouts, the snakes wouldn't want to be there because there'd be nowhere for them to hide and there'd be too many people about.
I understand you've got 5 daughters, and they were they're a little bit of a sort of watching from a distance of the little croc. Did any of them go in and start petting it, or want you to buy one for Christmas for them?
I actually own my own pet crocodile. Its name's Gummy, and I pet that one because I know it quite well. But this new one that I caught that was roaming around my lounge room for a couple of days, they weren't keen to go near that one.
So have you handed it to the authorities now?
Correct. I've handed it over to the Department of Environment, and I found out just today they found a suitable place for it at a local wildlife sanctuary, while they can figure out what's the best thing to do for the best interest of the welfare of the animal.
And one final one. What do you do with all the snakes you catch?
So by law, I need to release them within a 5-kilometre radius of where I find them. And it becomes tricky because you've got this venomous tiger snake, people expect you to take it away, but within a 5-kilometre radius, there's only more houses. So what I need to do is try and find the best position where I think there's the least chance that someone will encounter the snake, and the snake can also try and find food, water, shelter, etc. So it's a challenge. The most challenging part of my job is actually finding a suitable location to relocate the snake, but that's what I do every single time.
You don't tag them or anything and suddenly think, blimey, this is the 5th time this week I've caught this snake?
It hasn't come up yet, but I'm waiting for the day that I capture a snake and think, hang on, I know you.
Hopefully he doesn't recognise you first and get you. Thank you so much for your time, Mark, and we wish you all the best and safety doing that magnificent job you do.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.